Right, it's Katie starting.
Yeah. Okay, we're live. Katie?
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. As we discussed just before the meeting, for our voting today, we're just going to do. I'm going to ask whether any members wish to abstain or vote against, and therefore, if any are in favour, and then confirm the vote at the end of the item.
Right, thank you for that, Katie. We can now commence the meeting and welcome to everybody for this second meeting of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Authority, Shadow Authority. This meeting is being held remotely and members are in attendance via video conferencing. The meeting is being live streamed on the authority's website and also available for repeated viewing. Those participating in the meeting are consenting to being recorded and use of their images for broadcast purposes. We welcome to our meeting Stuart Harwood, who is representing Michael Lane, the PCC. I will commence by naming the members who are present at this meeting for the public record. I'm the chairman of the meeting, Councillor Chris Carter. We also have Councillor Ros Chad, Councillor Liz Fairhurst, Councillor Jonathan Glenn, Councillor Jeff Hockley, Councillor Vivian Vaughan, Councillor Rogers Price, Councillor David Simpson, Councillor Sharon Mintoff from Southampton, and I'm not quite sure whether we've got Councillor Jason Fazackerley. Have we got Jason? Katie?
Not at the moment, Chairman. I will keep an eye out though in case he tries to join.
Jason may well be joining us. I also know that Councillor Dave Stewart from the Isle of Wight will join us as soon as he's able to. During the meeting, if a member wishes to speak, they will indicate this to me by using the raise hand function as the primary method. In the event that that function is unavailable to you, the secondary method is to use the meeting chat function and type in RTS request to speak. All decisions will be reached through a vote conducted by calling out abstain, against and for, with a pause for opportunity so members can speak up at the relevant time. The outcome of the vote will be confirmed by Katie Sherwood, the Democratic and Services Officer, before moving on to the next item on the agenda. I would like to remind members that the Constitution's standing orders will apply, so please keep your microphone muted unless you have been called to speak. And remember, you may be visible on screen to the public and to other members, even if you are not speaking. Right, so turning to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence. I don't think we have any apologies, Katie, so we're expecting everybody to join us, and some will be joining a little bit later. Item 2, declarations of interest. I will read this for the benefit of the tape. To enable members to disclose to the meeting any disclosable pecuniary interest that they may have in any matter on the agenda for the meeting, where that interest is not already entered in the authority's register of interests, and any other pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in any such matter that members may wish to disclose. Members, you're all very familiar with that item, I know, so if anything comes up during the meeting, please indicate at the appropriate time. Item 3 now, minutes of our first meeting of the Shadow Board. Please turn to item 3, which is on page 3. That was the meeting that we held on the 3rd of June last. So taking those pages for accuracy, page 3, page 4 and page 5. Are you content that that reflects a true record of our meeting on that day?
I think Councillor Simpson has his hand raised.
David Simpson, you have a point to raise?
Sorry, Chris, I put my hand up earlier. Do we have a blanket dispensation, as we always have when we discuss council tax?
Oh, yes, we do, yes.
It's just that it wasn't mentioned, and I believe it ought to be. Okay,
well, we will come back to that item under agenda item 7. Yes, but thank you for raising that. Returning to the minutes, you're all comfortable with the minutes as stated under item 3. Well, nobody has indicated they're not. So do you have any matters arising or any comments from those minutes? We will obviously be returning to the issues that were raised in that meeting at a later meeting of the authority. In actual fact, I think the matters arising there will probably become before an APAC meeting before they come back to this shadow board. Okay, so you're all content with that. Good, thank you. Item 4, deputations. Pursuant to Standing Order 19, we have no deputations for this meeting today. Item 5, Chairman's announcements. I have no announcements relating to the Shadow Board other than to reiterate what I've said at previous meetings or recent meetings, just to reiterate the comments that I've made relating to the Chief Fire Officer, Neil Odin, and the Deputy Chief, who, I should have said you were joining me. I beg your pardon. Steve Apter is with me, the Deputy Chief, and indeed all of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire Service. What they have been doing in the last 4 months is quite exceptional. So on behalf of you as Chairman of the Shadow Authority, I wish to record our thanks and appreciation to all that the fire officers have been doing in Hampshire and the island to keep us all safe at this time. Thank you, Jonathan, for applauding. Thank you. So I wish that to be recorded in the minutes. On to item 6, member development. I don't have anything to add at this stage. Does anybody wish to add any comment, anything? No? Okay, thank you for that. So we move on now to the substantive item of this meeting, agenda item 7, approval of alternative notional amount for council tax setting. And you have the report before you. So I would ask Rob Carr to present his report to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, members. This is a somewhat technical report, so I'll do my best to take you through it, but obviously happy to take any questions at the end. So as part of setting up the new CFA, we are required to set an alternative notional amount, an ANA for short, because it's a bit of a mouthful. Effectively, what that represents is what the council tax would have been for the new combined fire authority if it was in existence this year. So it's a sort of a base position, and it serves 2 purposes. The first purpose is to be a base position for the setting of the council tax in 21-22. So obviously we need something to apply an increase to. And then the second reason is it's used for council tax harmonisation. Now, what I mean by that, just to remind you, is that as part of setting the business case, we had to come up with a notional council tax for the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service. So in effect, that part of the island's council tax that went towards the provision of fire and rescue services. That was then compared to HFRA's council tax for the year. And within the business case, the figures were calculated based on the 2019-20 budget, And you may recall that there was a differential of only 80 pence between the island's notional council tax and HFRA's actual council tax. So that was submitted as part of the business case, and the approach, the proposal that we put in the business case was to harmonise the two council tax at the HFRA level. So effectively what that would have meant is that people on the island would have paid an extra 80 pence for their fire and rescue services when the CFA came into being. So obviously that was a fairly notional sum at that point. So that was approved by government on that basis, but in working towards the final CFA position, we are required to rework those numbers based on the 2021, the current year's budget. So what's happened as a result of that is the differential between the notional council tax and HFRA's actual council tax has increased to £6.88. Now, this is mainly as a result of the fact that within the 2019-20 budget for the Isle of Wight, they had assumed a 5% pay award for firefighters based on some of the sort of national discussions that were going on at that time. As it turned out, the pay award was agreed at only 2%, and in effect that has had the impact of reducing their budget for the Island Fire Service in that year, and that has flowed through into the 2021 figures. So effectively, we have a slightly more significant figure in terms of the differential between the notional council tax and the actual council tax. And given that, what we decided to do was to rerun the option appraisal that was included in the original business case. So if I can just take you to paragraph 15 of the report. So within that, that sets out the three options that we looked at. So option one was to harmonise in the year to the HFRA level. Option two was to harmonise at the Isle of Wight level. And option three was to do effectively an average of the two. And if I can draw your attention to paragraph 17, so what that gives you is a summary of the option appraisal. And I think for me, the key issue is if you look at the financial impact on the new CFA under options 2 and options 3, because effectively we would be setting a lower council tax, which would apply to the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. What that means is we end up losing £4.4 million worth of council tax income under option 2 and £2 million worth of lost income under option 3. So given that would have a substantial effect on the financial sustainability of the new CFA, and could indeed potentially affect public safety, which was one of the main drivers for the combination, this report proposes that we stick with option 1, which is to harmonise at the current HFRA level. If I could just move you further down the report to the equality impact assessment. So the main impact of the proposals within this report is that residents on the Isle of Wight will pay £6.88 more for their fire and rescue service than they are currently paying in this financial year. So as a percentage of the overall council tax, that's an increase of about 0.37%. So in percentage terms, it is quite small, but at the end of the day, it is still an increase on what they are paying today. And what paragraph 25 points out, though, is that £6.88 is for a Band D equivalent property, but 65% of chargeable households on the island are in bands A, B and C, and 40% are in the lowest bands A and B. And then within those, 50% of all residents also receive some other form of discount. And then finally, any residents who experience financial hardship are able to apply under the council tax support scheme and may therefore receive further support for that increase. So whilst the £6.88 is significantly higher than that submitted in the business case, we think those various mitigations are quite effective in that regard. So based on the analysis, the proposals in this report is to set the alternative notional amount at the current HFRA level. Now, for us, that is just a proposal. So the final decision on the alternative notional amount is made by the Secretary of State as part of the process for the local government finance settlement, which we expect to come out in December. So that's the recommendations on 30 and 31. Happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Rob. Before we go to that, I just need to make a correction. Earlier on, I welcomed Stuart Harwood and said he was representing the PCC. I do apologise, Stuart. You're representing the Home Office, and we're delighted that you're with us and witnessing our meeting. So I'm sorry about that. Right, Katie, have we got Dave Stewart with us?
No, he's not here yet, Chairman.
Right, because this report went before the Isle of Wight Council last week, and I think it was an important paper. I know the Isle of Wight supported option 1, but I would really welcome Dave's comments upon that issue. Do we know? Have we any idea where he was when he said
he was stuck in traffic? He should be with us imminently, Chairman.
Right. Okay. Well, with your forbearance, members, I'd like to wait for Dave to join us. Does anybody else have a question or comment that they?
Councillor Fairhurst.
All right, Councillor Fairhurst, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I was merely going to say before you spoke that we should wait for Councillor Stewart to turn up, because this affects obviously the people on the island far more than us. But you've said it, so that's fine.
Fine. Thank you. Anybody else want to add any comment at this stage?
So I could also mention, Chairman, it's Rob again. So whilst the Shadow Authority sets the alternative notional amount for the new CFA, the Isle of Wight also were required to set their own alternative notional amount, because obviously their starting point for next year's council tax will be less the amount that we've taken away for the Fire and Rescue Service. So whilst they supported option 1 in this paper, they were also formally required to set their own alternative notional amount, which will also have to be submitted to the Secretary of State.
Thank you, Rob. I see Dave Stewart is with us. Are you there, Dave?
I am. My apologies. The madness of the Isle of Wight traffic, which shouldn't be very bad, caught up with me this for once, and I must apologise. Right,
don't worry. We're delighted that you're with us, and it's very important that you are with us, Dave. Now, Rob Carr has presented the paper to us. I know you're fully familiar with it because it came before your council just recently. So,
yep.
And it affects the island, and it's very important that you give us your views and comment on the option 1 decision that I know the island made. So over to you, Dave.
Yes, so I am a little bit unread at the moment. I just haven't got it in front of me. But in a nutshell, the council meeting, the matter was fully debated.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Would you like Rob to go back over a few points? We've got time that he can do that.
If he could just give me his key points, and I'll also bring up then the relevant material, which is what I'm doing.
It's an important issue. So, yes. Rob, could you pick that up? Could you just go through the key points for Dave?
Yeah, happy to do that. So I think probably the key point. So as you know, we had to calculate calculate a notional amount for the Isle of Wight equivalent council tax for the Fire and Rescue Service as part of the business case. That compared to the current HFRA figure was only an 80p differential, and the business case was submitted on that basis and was approved by government on the basis that we would harmonise at Hampshire's council tax level. As you know, when we reworked the numbers for 2021, the differential increased to £6.88 as a result of the change in the firefighters' pay budget. given that the differential was greater, we reran the option appraisal that was included within the business case, which was to harmonise at the HFRA level, to harmonise at the Isle of Wight FRS level, or to do effectively an average of the two. I drew the committee's attention to paragraph 17, which sets out a table of the option appraisal summary, and just pointed out that the financial impact of going for either option 2 or option 3 would have had such a significant impact on the new CFA that we thought it made much more sense to stick with option 1 as per the business case. What that means, though, is that it does mean that Isle of Wight residents will pay an extra £6.88 for a Band D property for their fire and rescue service from next year onwards. But I also drew attention to paragraph 25, if you've managed to get that up, which is the impact assessment, which shows that 65% of households are in bands A, B and C.
Yep.
And of those in bands A and B, 50% of people also receive some other discount towards their council tax. Plus also there's the local council tax support scheme, which people can apply for if they are in financial hardship. And we felt that all of those things together were quite a significant mitigation against the increased cost.
Yeah, so as you know, the Isle of Wight Council supported option 1. I think there were two things I highlighted. First of all, that this was a new fire authority, and that we were harmonising with Hampshire. There were one or two people who said, "Oh, why are Hampshire not having an increase?" And we are. And it's because we're harmonising, so everybody will be treated the same, and that was received well. The second thing is when you actually did the calculation on the Band C figure, I think it worked out at 10p a week. So it was relatively easy to sell the fire service to the Isle of Wight community, and particularly the councillors, at an extra 10p a week. And they've got a very high regard for the fire service on the Isle of Wight, as you know, which is in fact already part of Hampshire's arrangements anyway. So actually, and with the majority in the council chamber, it was always going to be able to go forward. So I'm just pleased to say that we have agreed that, and we are going forward, and that decision was made. And thank you for the papers.
Thank you for that, Dave. It was very important that we got your views of the situation on the island. I've got Councillor Price now who's got a question. I think you're muted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a comment, Chris, is that I certainly fully support option 1. Being is that we are not making the decision, it becomes a minister's decision, and the options 2 and 3 have quite severe ramifications for us as an authority going on into the future. Should the minister, hopefully not, but should they choose either option 2 or 3 to go for, do we have any appeal or recompense against that? So it's really a question to Rob. I mean, I would hope they don't go for 2 or 3, but very concerned if they did.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Obviously, first time I've ever been through this process in my career, so not entirely sure how it works. But yeah, my understanding is that it is a decision made by the Secretary of State. I'm not aware that we have any form of appeal. What does happen is that the figures would go into the local government, the provisional local government finance settlement, which is normally released in December, and you are able to make representations, on that consultation document. So we would have the ability to make further representations if it was changed. All I would say, and I won't put Stuart on the spot, but all I would say is that given that the business case was based on harmonising at the Hampshire level, the business case was approved by government, and both the Isle of Wight and the Shadow Authority have agreed the ANAs as set out in this paper, then I would hope that was very low risk.
Thank you for that, Rob. I think it was a point well made by Roger, but I'd be incredibly surprised if the minister opted for anything other than option 1. Right. Anybody else got any points they wish to raise? No?
Mr. Chairman, can I come in, please?
Sorry?
Could I come in, please?
Who's asking? No,
It's Jason.
Oh, Jason, sorry, you're not coming up on my screen because, yes, please go ahead, Jason. You have a question.
Yeah, no, sorry. First of all, apologies for being somewhat late. I had a few technical difficulties. I came in just before Dave did. I'm happy to, that's my front door bell going now. I'm happy to support option 1 and also to say I've got no actual declarations of interest.
Fine. Thank you, Jason. It's good to hear from you. I hope for future meetings we can improve your connectivity so we can at least see you. Right, members, can I take you to page 12 of your report where you have the recommendations? There's 2 recommendations. Are you content to take those 2 together?
Agreed.
Yeah.
We'll go to Katie to deal with the vote. You there, Katie?
Thank you. Hi, yes, I'm here. Hi. Thank you. Okay, so are there any members that wish to abstain from voting on the recommendations? No. Okay. Are there any members that wish to vote against the recommendations? No. Okay. And those in favour of the recommendations?
Agreed.
Taking that as a unanimous.
All agree. Excellent. Thank you for arranging that, Kate. Well done, everybody. That was a unanimous and very important vote. And that concludes the meeting. So thank you all for your attendance today.
Bye.
Done again, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.